Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, those who are in the Western world, and good evening for those who are on this side of the world, on the Eastern side. This is our 6th webinar, which we have conducted the earlier ones, which we have recorded on YouTube and also available for your perusal on our website. We had a lot of responses from the people, and this is a normal that we do every quarter. This webinar at the same time, and the topics and the people who are selected to speak, we give the wide publicity through the mass mail. I would also like to invite people this time that they should tell us what they want to have webinar on the subject and what should be the subject for the webinar for the next time, because the next, being a quarter, the next webinar will be after 2 months. We have all gathered here. My name is Dr. V.K. Singh to conduct this webinar, and the person who is the expert who is with me is Mr. Sachin Gaur, who is MTech from Alto in cybersecurity and also from Estonia and cryptography. He is not only into the cybersecurity, but he had done more than a dozen patents. He got a National Innovation Award on the innovations by technology and various such things which he have. You in fact can read in the brochure all about him or on our website. We decided to have this cybersecurity. He's also made a free online training program for sensitization, which is available, and those who want, they can write to us and the link shall be sent to you. It will be good that you read about the cybersecurity, which is the hot topic of the day. Why cybersecurity? Cybersecurity in the non-health field was very well known, especially in the finances. Finance is one of the important things, and most of the things were already onto the electronic version. So it was easy to hack, transfer the money, and so on and so forth. Of late, it has gained importance. In the Western world, there are lots of case studies which are available on cybersecurity and what hazards have been created. Ultimately, there are two aspects now. One, you are already well versed in the finance. Second, should you not be well versed, where the life and death is the issue. As somebody hacks, changes the dose schedule, and nurse gives that dose, it could be the very fatal thing. As you are aware that in India, we are also going thoroughly to electronic medical record. There are some authority which are being done, some other regulatory issues which are coming up, because gradually, as digital India is the one issue where India wants to get into, the cybersecurity will be into digital mode, and cybersecurity will be very, very important. We also bring magazine. You can share your experience. People have done. We will be doing some conference on 18th international conference, transforming healthcare by innovation, on 18-19 September at the Shangri-La Hotel, New Delhi, India. And those who are interested can ask. They can see our website, and all details are there. And there also we are touching on this topic. In future, there is a demand. We are also launching in next 2-3 months the training program that will be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, so that we could have initially face-to-face, and we'll cut down the cost. We'll also have virtual training program. This is a canvas that the issue we have taken from the InnovatioCuris or IC, where we look for some newer things, a newer initiative which people yet to get really know about it. Some people say we are ahead of the time, but definitely the issue of cybersecurity in health sector is going to come up in a bigger way. Somebody throwing a ransomware and seizing all your computers in the hospital, and subsequently through the Bitcoin they make the payment, and after making the payment you get the release of the computer. Well, not taking much time of yours, I will give you the Sachin Gaur, who is the expert in the subject. he shall be talking to you. We'll take the questions and answers, and after that I will take on to sum it up. And those who have missed it, please go after 2-3 days. You'll find that on our website as well as on the YouTube. We are already recording everything. Thank you very much, and welcome to you for joining us.
So a very warm welcome again from my side, and I thank Dr. V.K. Singh for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this topic. And I will be, try to address what's going on, and I welcome any questions towards the end of this webinar. So the title of the webinar today is Emerging Threats of Cybersecurity in the Health Sector. So before I go that, let me quickly share what I'm going to cover today in the agenda. And so briefly, I will give you my viewpoint where internet is going. Then I will give you some thoughts on what's happening in the cybersecurity arena. Then probably I will show you 1 or 2 examples, how easily you can do it yourself. And then, towards the last part of it, I will give you, what is that I see is happening in the health sector. So, before I move ahead, let me give you a disclaimer, quick one, that if I show you anything, the idea is not to do anything illegal, but or not to cause any harm. And I appreciate that if you can draw your own conclusions, because most of you are probably very deep experts in health sector. So my idea is to give you a brief overview, and you should be able to draw examples on your own. So before I move ahead, talk about cybersecurity. We have all been experiencing internet for almost last 25 years, and in my opinion, internet is primarily gone through 3 phases. The first phase was the Google era, when any of us who was interested in finding information was going to the internet and searching for it. So I would call it the intent phase. Then came the Facebook. So we were all interested in information. So our idea of finding information was liking things. So I will call that as the interest phase. Now we are entering to a very interesting phase of internet, which I call as the conversation era. So now companies like Google, they have come up with a product which you can buy in your living room, keep it, and talk to it instead of typing it. Many of us are already talking to Siri and Google Hello, for example. Now Amazon also has a product known as Echo. So my opinion is that this is a very interesting era where technology is going to listen to our conversation all the time, and it's going to be very ubiquitous. So somebody once asked me about the jobs of future, and I thought that how technology is going to talk to us, is going to be very interesting, whether it's going to engage us or not. So in my opinion, the best jobs in time to come are going to be of dialogue writers, that how technology can engage you. So why I'm telling you this is that technology is trying to become more and more intimate, and the way we are experiencing internet, that also means that the way we are disclosing the information. So moving on, this is just a screenshot. So imagine you are a doctor and you have this Amazon Echo beside you, and you are talking to your patient, and it is patiently listening to your patient symptom, and is already able to give you or the doctor some kind of advice on what medicine to give. So this kind of future is not far away. So that's how I'm relating, this technology evolution to medical practice. But at the same time, the warning is that when 2G mobile communications were designed, so there was an A5 chip which was put into the mobile phone. So that was encrypting your conversation that you were doing with somebody else. Now today, the amount of computation that is available to us, we can already break the encryption, which people do on 2G devices at a very affordable cost. So no more that this conversation is private. So that is a fundamental, point I want to make, that whenever we do a technology-based decision, we do it today based on today's technology. But when it becomes hackable in future, because the amount of computation, it's getting cheaper and it's getting accessible. So more and more attacks are possible, and I will show you in some time. But building on this thesis, where internet is evolving, let me also show you, how crime is changing. So what started on internet as as first activities which were malintention was probably first computer virus made by some hobbyist. Today, that has changed. Today, it's nation states which want to attack other states, and they want to, take advantage of cyber. So what we see today from that hobbyist is to organized crime. Today, crime is available as a service. We used to have software as a service. Today, we have crime as a service, meaning that you don't have to steal credit card. You can buy credit card data from some Russian website. So they have done one part of the thing for you. Similarly, nation states, they are also looking, I'll share some examples that how without crossing the border, they can cause harm to other countries. So in nutshell, if we try to understand the commercial dimension of internet crime, we have to understand the weakest link. That's what we always tell in the security domain, that we should attack the weakest component of the system. And often you will find, especially in healthcare, the weakest component could be the human part of the system. And second part is that increasingly stealing data or information is becoming more like a business. So you can sell that data and monetize it. So that's the key part, where internet crime is increasing. So in order to understand this further, let's say I am someone who's stealing your data, right? I would have no incentive if that data is not monetizable. Second part is that if, let's say, you are able to trace that how did the payment happen between the two parties when somebody steals someone and goes and sells it some other place. So he or she needs a marketplace. So I need a place to sell something illegal. Then I also need a mechanism to get paid. That's where the future of internet is very interesting, because there is something known as cryptocurrency, bitcoins, which people use. So if there was a regular bank payment, imagine you steal somebody's data and you're trying to sell, and the police is able to find that the payment was made to this person, the criminal can be easily caught. But today, that is being done because there are marketplaces which are, what you call as dark internet, darknet, where you can go and easily, trade data, take, ransoms and all that kind of thing, and accept money in a currency, which is beyond the law of the land, right? So that part we have to understand, why crime is happening, what is the underlying, thing here. Now, a bit about the kind of attackers. There are all kind of attackers. People who are, aiming for bounty programs. So there are big companies which say that if you find a bug in our software, we'll give you money. So there are those kind of people who try to hack things because they want to win money. Then there are people who have a political agenda, that they are unhappy about something. You must have heard about organizations like Anonymous. So they go and attack countries or all kind of organizations if they don't like what they are saying in the public. Then there are cybercriminals which do this for making money, and then there are nation-state attackers which do it as a way to defend or attack their enemies. So we need to understand who we are facing. When it comes to health sector, are we facing a cyber criminal? In some cases, yes. Are we facing some nation state? Maybe, right? So all kind of things are possible. So we need to understand the tactics, techniques, malwares, what kind of malwares are prevalent, what kind of procedures people are doing. So before we, go deeper into the health sector, I don't know, it's not possible to do in this webinar kind of a show of hands, but I would have want to know, So maybe you guys can use the chat and tell me how many of you know Darknet, how many of you used torrent browser, how many of you know about Silk Route, how many of you have heard of cyber weapons, or how many of you know zero-day attack, how many of you know Locky, how many of you know what is a bot, how many of you know what is a distributed denial of service attack. So do you want to use the chat window and tell me if any of you have heard of these terms? So if not now, but maybe you can also share it when we have the Q&A part going on. But I will move on, and since we will be making the slides public, you might want to check up what is Darknet, what is Silk Route, and so forth. But let me now move further and show you what is happening when it comes to the part that I mentioned. Let's catch up. Sorry, it seems like my presentation deck is stuck. My colleague is helping me to, if we can, restart the system. But anyways, I will move on, and I will share the slide deck with you. So as I was sharing, that we were about to tell you the examples, what kind of attacks are happening. So I wonder if you have heard about ransomware. So this is the kind of attack where a system has a malware which comes to your system and it encrypts your data, and then it demands that you need to send them money via bitcoins. Then only you will get a key to unlock your data. So many of my friends here in India, I have heard that when they have such an attack, they call me that what can they do. So I only suggest two things in that scenario. One is that either they pay the money, right, which for example Government of India says that you should not do and you should report the case. Second is that I ask them, do you have a backup? So in that case, if you have also heard the same thing, that you have a ransomware attack, what to do? So you should see that you already have a backup, and if you have a backup, maybe you can recover your data without paying the money, right? So that's the one kind of attack which is quite famous, and you might have heard news. There are some hospitals in US, for example, in Los Angeles, which have paid ransom up to $17 million, for example. So this is a very common kind of attack which is happening. Yeah. So just give me a second. I would try to share my presentation again. Yeah. Yeah. So can you confirm that you can see my presentation? Again, I'm not sure if you see my presentation. Yeah. So I think now you can see my presentation. So I was trying to give you this example of ransomware, but before that, let me ask you a trivia. So I don't know how many of you know when was the first virus made. So the first virus was made around 1984 by two Pakistani brothers, and the virus was made for very much that they didn't want people to steal their software. So they made it in a way that if somebody is using the software without their permission, it will show their home address of Lahore, and they have to contact them to get their system rid of that message. So we have moved on from there to something which I narrated an example of ransomware. So today, when people like Al Gore, they talk about data surveillance itself as an industry of $156 billion per year, they talk that it is a stalker's economy that we are getting into. So now moving on, what is common when it comes to the medical practice and cybersecurity. So one thing which is very common, you see mosquito on one side and USB on the other side, is a vector. So in cybersecurity, we also call the reasons a virus can come to your system as a vector. So USB is a vector. Similarly, you can get malaria. You have a vector-borne disease, right? So this is the common thing between medical practice and cybersecurity. So you have to always watch out for the vector. So similarly, in medical practice, you might have to give a warning to the patient that, okay, avoid waterlogging and all that. So you might give a similar advice to someone that, okay, there are now USB sticks available in the market which can totally destroy your computer. So let's say I don't like your computer, or I don't like your data, and I give you a free USB stick, and the moment you put the USB stick into your computer is fried. So this kind of things are available. Then another example one of my classmates found was that you can visit a website link from your phone, and entire phone data is wiped out. So this is already old news here. I'm talking about 2012. So this was possible on a Samsung phone. Then maybe you have heard about Taj Attack. So I just want to narrate one very simple example. So when the terrorists were there in the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, so they were knocking one person's door, and the person inside, he didn't order anything. So he was suspicious. So he was trying to run into the bathroom, and he knocked something off, and he made some noise. So the terrorists confirmed that there is someone inside. So they fired on the door, they opened the door, and they caught this guy. And now they asked this guy, who are you? So this guy said, hey, I am a school teacher. So of course the terrorists won't believe that a school teacher doesn't stay in a 5-star hotel. So they looked for his ID. So they found his ID, and they did a Google image search. And when they did a Google image search, they came to know that he's the MD of ING Vyasa. And of course, they could not do the Google image search themselves, so they asked, somebody in Pakistan, and they read out the name, and that person did the image search and confirmed that, okay, this guy is a high-value target, kill him. So that was the first time in the Taj Attack where the data that is available publicly about you, in this case, the MD of ING Vyasa, could be used to kill him. So we should be, while we are talking about cybersecurity, I'm also talking about what data is publicly available about you. Just to link this to something which is future, let's say we talk about genome sequencing, right? We talk about Human Genome Project, right? So a lot of people say, if we get it done as it is getting cheaper, what if this genome data becomes available to someone who wants to, have bad intentions about you? Maybe they will know allergies about you, they will know ways to harm you. So I'm just trying to showcase some examples where technology has been used in the wrong way. The recent example was that there was this app which was planted as a honeypot for Indian soldiers. They use it, and somebody in Pakistan, for example, was easily able to listen to the communication, because at the time of the incident which was going on in Pathankot, they were using phones, of course, and because of this app, they were the phones were sending all that communication to some app which was launched to Germany, and later Indian Army asked, Government of India asked Google to take down this app from their Play Store. I don't know if many of you know about this example. The former US Vice President, he had a pacemaker in his heart, and he was once going for a conference, and this is already old news, that people plan that maybe they will communicate or contact this Bluetooth interface of his pacemaker and shut it down. So eventually, for an outsider, Dick Cheney would just collapse when he was giving the speech, and maybe a diagnosis would be that the pacemaker stopped. But for somebody who wants to cause harm, this was a very well-planned attack. Of course, this could not happen, and then the doctors removed the Bluetooth communication to my future slides. So I just want you to be mindful. This is very old example. This is exactly 10 years back, 2007, when somebody wanted to kill Dick Cheney by shutting down the pacemaker remotely. This is again a very old example. Israel and US, they didn't want that Iran should be able to, launch a nuclear program. So they developed a specialized known as Stuxnet for the SCADA systems. And this, sorry, my slide is taking a while to change, but in this example, two countries plant against a third country a specialized software which would go into the SCADA systems of the Iranian nuclear setup, and at the right time it will activate. It destroyed 70% of their centrifuges, which delayed the Iranian nuclear program by several years. And why this example is very relevant, because most often, large complex systems, we don't know what is going in it. We just buy them. So a company like Siemens here, this component was bought by Iran from Siemens, and the Americans and the Israelis, they knew in advance that this is the kind of component they're going to buy. They planned the software in it. So somebody in the Iranian nuclear facility plugged in a USB stick, right? And this software spread. And on bottom part, I have put the Hollywood movie Speed. So if you remember the movie, what happened in the movie, they used, an old movie that could play in the camera so that they could trick the bad guys that they are normal in the bus. So the same thing was done by this software in the Iranian nuclear facility. This software first recorded the proper functioning of the SCADA system, and when it was destroying the nuclear power plant centrifuges, it was still reporting on the dashboard normal values. So Iranians were totally confused that, okay, their system is running fine, at least, on the values that they could see on the screen, but on the back end, it was totally destroyed. So that is the kind of trickery, someone can do with these kind of systems. So imagine a similar scenario that you have a complex machine in hospital, and there is a software which is trying to do bad things with the patient, but at the same time is showing you normal values on the user interface. Because as a doctor, you might not know that what goes behind the scenes when it comes to technology. So you will trust the normal user interface. So imagine how often we calibrate our machines. I'm sure that there are guidelines of calibrating such machines, but the more and more we have internet connected devices, and if there is a chance that it could be compromised, I think the only way is that we should have a way or mechanism to calibrate the device. So just to give you some concrete examples here, so many of you use Google, right? So if you use this query here, for example, site:/xyz.com. So what this will do, it will show you only results from this website, right? So what if you put site:/xyz.com file type :PDF? So it will only show from this website documents which are of type PDF, right? So if I become a bit more playful, I change my query site:/.gov.in/gmail.com file type SQL. So what this query will do on a normal Google, which you can do right away, is that it will only search Government of India website for something which is Gmail, which is ending with gmail.com, which is most likely an email address, and give you, if there is a file which contains a Gmail address which is of type SQL. So why I am doing this query? This query basically gives me any database which somebody has accidentally put on a government website, and most likely it will be having login and passwords. So I don't have to go and query each and every government website that whether they have accidentally left any login password data in public. And further to that, maybe I am lazy, I don't want to do this query, so I will set up a Google alert. So whenever Google will find any Indian government website which has by mistake left the the confidential data in public, Google will send me an email that here you are, you have the data, right? But anyways, I don't do this, and if I find something, I most likely report it to the owner of the website when such a thing happens. But the reason I'm showing you this is that I just want to show you that with such a simple query, and for example, here is a live example here, you could see that there are some websites turning up which have placed by mistake their database online. So the reason I wanted to show you these examples, that I wanted to show it to you that how easy it has become, to find a compromise in the system like Google, that you can use Google. And on the other hand, how crime is becoming a business because there is a marketplace existing, B, there is a way and means to transact money, so that is, it's like two sides of the coin. One, that A, you are able to commit crime easily, which people can do, they just need a computer. B, they can also make money out of it. So what we see today, crime is becoming a business, so there are, proper companies in certain parts of the world where they hire people and their day job is to make a virus, right? So what we see today in healthcare industry, one such thing which is happening every day on a daily basis, which is ransomware. So what ransomware does, it basically, tries and finds a victim, and let's say it's a university, it's a hospital, it's a government department, whichever, and then it basically encrypts your entire data, and then it demands for a ransom. Then if you want that data, if you're interested in that data, you basically end up paying using Bitcoins. So this is happening as we are talking, and there is no way, to stop it, but there is only one way out. I strongly advise to, people who are hospital owners here, that can you have real-time backup? Can you have good backup? So if somebody is able to, hold you, ransom, asking for ransom that, hey, pay me the money and I'll give you the data, you don't depend on them because you already have a backup copy. So a regular backup is the only way out when it comes to ransomware. So now this is probably my last slide and the most important slide and also the topic of this webinar. So I'm writing a paper right now, and I'm happy that if any of you want to collaborate, especially from the hospital side and healthcare sector, that how can we help the industry do better. So as you know, this famous quote from one of the Silicon Valley investor, that software is eating the world. So wherever IT is coming into picture, now talking about the health sector, there is a possibility that something wrong can happen. So I have listed down 6 possibilities here, and I've already told for some of them what are the ways that you can get out. But let me just explain to you, what could happen. So malware affecting the data systems, we already talked about. Ransomware, which is very much happening these days. Even a normal virus, say 10 years back, was a nuisance to anybody, because it was impacting your computer, but it was not very business oriented. It was not trying to make money out of you. It was just giving you trouble. But that same malware has now become a business machine for Second is denial of service. I don't know how many of you understand this term. Denial of service means that a legitimate user, let's say I am someone who paid money to an online service like online health service, and I'm not able to log into the service. Many of you might experience the same in old days with the IRCTC website, that we wanted to book the ticket, but let's say the system is not loading up. So this can be done in a malicious way. Let's say I can hire a botnet from some Russian website, and I can say, okay, a particular hospital, just keep opening that website so many times that a normal legitimate user is not able to open. So that's what you call as a denial of service attack. It's very cheap to do, and a lot of people have been doing this, especially on a nation state level. The first one I experienced was in Estonia, when in 2007 the entire economy of Estonia was down for 3 days, and the attack only costed $50,000. So what happened? There was a Russian soldier statue somewhere in the Stalin Square, and that was removed, and that angered some of the Russian sympathizers, because Estonia has a lot of Russian people living, so they didn't like it. So, and Estonia has most of their services electronic, so the Estonian citizens were not able to use any of that service because there was a botnet which was trying to do this distributed denial of service attack. The third is the stealing identity information. Most of you know that today, I believe that most of you would have a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile. Imagine I create a fake profile, just stealing your existing data, create a fake profile and start sending messages to people that, I am in trouble, send me money. This is a common scam which is happening these days. So what could happen, when your identity is at stake? So the more we are getting into these systems, it is important that how do we safeguard our login password. So as we are going to experience, e-health services, I think a country like India, where there are a lot of new internet users, it will be important that how do they safeguard their identity information. Because in that case, somebody who is not otherwise authorized can have access to your health information, or could do something, which is not desired. So a good way, to protect your identity, I would say, is that whenever possible, use one-time passwords. So people do not know that, certain systems, apart from offering login password, they also offer a two-factor authentication, which is that apart from you logging using a password, they also send a message to your SMS to your mobile. So wherever possible, if you want to build a strong service, offer two-factor authentication, offer one-time passwords to your users, and just knowing the password, just stealing the password would not do the job for the attacker. So those of you designing e-services, consider that, and those of you experiencing e-services, always go for, if possible, two-factor authentication, something like one-time passwords. Now I come to the data leak and breaches. I showed you a very simple example that how using Google, I was able to find databases which has, important information, right? So a data leak or a breach can happen to anybody. The most, the most technical companies in the world, from Google to Microsoft, all have been hacked. So it means that nobody is prone, or nobody is, nobody is strong enough to resist an attack. So what could you do? So there are some good practices that you can adopt. Maybe when you are storing data, especially patient data, maybe you already encrypt it, so it is only opened by certain keys. So even if your data leak is happening, data breach is happening, it's not available in plain text. Many companies have realized this hard way. So I recommend, if you are building IT systems, especially for the health sector, having patient information, if it is possible to store that patient information in an encrypted way, always do that. So there are few basics. People who are aware, they know it, but people who are doing it for the first time, please think about it, that no system today can say that they are hack proof. So biggest of the companies have been hacked. There is a saying in the security world, they say there are only two kind of organizations: one who have been hacked, and the other one who don't know that they have been hacked. So meaning everybody is hacked. Now I come to the fifth part, which is hacking medical devices and health systems. This I relate to the example that I gave of Stuxnet. So if I want to do a complicated attack, on a hospital or on a population, I might actually build, a sophisticated software program which basically attacks that device. Maybe it shows the normal values to the doctor, but at the same time to the patient it is giving all the kind of wrong dosages, right? So this again is not easy to prevent. So if somebody is really after you, somebody wants to cause damage, they can do that. Now how do you avoid it? So for example, there are certain facilities which we secure, like our data centers, other important rooms, we have kind of security guards sitting there and all that. We don't let people take USB sticks and all that. So I think that is important to understand. If there is a system which can accept a USB stick, I showed you how a USB stick can destroy your system, how it can hack a system. So don't let unnecessary devices plugged into your systems. If possible, your main databases, maybe they are not directly connected with internet, maybe they are only connected to intranet. So those kind of precautions need to be taken. Now I come to the last part, which is implantable medical devices with communication interfaces. I gave you example of Dick Cheney, that how he had a pacemaker which had a Bluetooth interface, and somebody who wanted to kill him wanted to use that Bluetooth interface to shut down the pacemaker. Now what is the issue, right? The issue is that we are all talking about IoT, we are all talking about Internet of Things devices, right? And one requirement of IoT devices is that they should be smaller in size. And because they have limited battery, we try to build in communication interfaces which are not very heavy, meaning which often means that they are not very secure. So if you are building a medical device and you are planning to connect it remotely, say for diagnostic purposes, and you're not building a secure interface into it, so a doctor who has a good intention, of course, would use it for the right purposes to understand what's happening with the patient. But a person who has a bad intention can also use the same communication interface, for example, to shut down that device. So if that device is critical for the patient to survive, the patient might die. So what do we need to understand here? The context here is that whenever we are designing IoT devices, or whenever we are procuring, whenever we are planting them, we should understand, do we really need this communication interface? Is that communication interface secure? And I think this kind of discussion is not happening enough. In general, in Internet of Things domain, and especially in the healthcare sector. And we need to also be mindful that as technology progresses, the old technology becomes easily hackable. So today, what I am putting in somebody's body, 15 years down the line, that same technology might be easily compromised. So some people say, that one way is that, okay, remove any unnecessary communication interface. Some people say that if such a thing is happening, maybe we should, remove that kind of technology which is already compromised. But you can imagine how many people are today going around with pacemakers. How many of them have a kind of interface which can be connected and that pacemaker could be shut down, right? So it will be unfortunate if something of that sort happens with someone. But these are the 6 kind of attacks that I see, somebody could plan on a typical health service. So I would be very happy to receive your, comments now, questions if any, and I already see that, somebody asking how often the security audits should be performed by the hospital. So there is no right or wrong answer, I must say, for such a question. So allow me to see your name first. Yeah, just a second. Okay, so there seems to be many questions here already, and before I start answering the question, let me just go to my last slide. And I would say to all of you, security is not about nuts and bolts, it's about the mindset. And I also have an open question for you, which you have to consider. Why internet is the breeding ground for crime? We have to understand this. I already gave you the answer, but there is a legal, legal aspect to it that we need to understand. So now I am on my last slide, and I will take on the questions. So I welcome you to type the questions. I'll read out the question and then answer the question. So Manish is asking, that he's saying DDoS, TOR, darknet. We have heard about these terms. Very interesting topic. Looking forward to learning more about the various aspects we have mentioned. So Manish, it's very difficult for me to cover, in detail all the topics here because A, we have limited time. B, I don't really know, how much technical I can go that it can be appreciated. So maybe for this webinar, I only touch the surface. But if there is a request from the community, I am more than happy to even plan a workshop or a training program, that where we can go deeper into these topics. Then somebody is asking, which is Mr. Raghavendra Halu, can you please quote an example of data security breach in India in health sector? Well, on record, I cannot say anything that I know, but I'm sure such attacks have happened, because I have met many people who have told me that some kind of compromise has happened into their facilities, but I would not like to quote any names. Then Manish is asking what should be the information security protocols followed by the hospitals in India. So Manish, to my understanding, there are ISO standards which are about security things. I think the practices are very general, which apply to any of the facilities that we might have, from a data center to otherwise any place which has an IT system. But then there are also specific protocols that you are probably well versed, like for example HIPAA compliant. People always talk that your interfaces should be HIPAA compliant. But that is only one component of the system, which is when some server is talking to some application. But what about the physical facility? What about the like I talked about, plugging into the USB into systems and all those kind of daily routine instances. So that kind of security is probably more about the mindset, and also more like ISO standards. I mean, sitting next to me is Dr. Singh also, who is an expert in quality aspects when it comes to hospital design and planning. I'm sure, and I also want to learn more from him. What are the security aspects covered in the quality standards when it comes to NABH in India or JCI in US? Then you have again asked the question, how often should the security audits be performed by the hospitals? So I would say, Manish, that there is something known as CERT, which is Center for Emergency Response. So every country has a CERT, like we have CERT India. So even Army has their own CERT. So the job of the CERT is to keep releasing advisory. So whenever you see that there is an advisory released which is impacting your systems that are there in the hospital setup, my recommendation is that keep a watch on the CERT advisory. If the CERT advisory impacts the system that you have in your hospital, I believe an action should be taken. But apart from that, maybe a 6-monthly or a yearly audit should be done, to the hospital, or whenever there is a technology upgrade happening, some software updates happening, all that kind of thing. So if there are any more questions, I would be happy to answer. Otherwise, I will give back the floor to Dr. Singh. Okay, so thank you, Manish. You have always been a big supporter of whatever we do here at IC. So Manish is appreciating, that I could answer his questions, and I also appreciate you, Manish, because you have been a big supporter, and you run a big community about digital health, healthcare IT. I believe that a lot needs to be done in this sector. It's growing, and I think we can probably together plan more initiatives where we can go deeper into the topic. So now I give the floor to Dr. Singh, and request him to sum up the seminar, the webinar, and thank you again from my side for patiently listening.
Thank you, Sachin. I really appreciate what you have communicated, and in fact, many things I myself have learned. It was wonderful that some questions have come. I just want to add on 2 points onto the questions what have been asked.
Firstly, as Sachin has said already, it is not possible to cover everything. We will expect that you write to us what you want us to do. Number one, the topic for the webinar in the future, so that it is the interest of everyone and you, and we share each other's point of view. Second one, in the direction of the cyber security, as I have already said, Sachin has made some online training program. Write to him, he will send the link, he will be too happy to link, it is free of cost, and you can circulate to as many people as possible in your organization or outside your organization, so that they become aware of every aspect of it. This will really bring out that people gradually understand what it is. In the hospital, there are two issues. One is normal awareness by the normal doctors, the allied health professional and nurses. They should know what is do's and don'ts. This awareness you will get what if you ask for the what I have said already link, which is already emphasized into this. The second one is in the domain of the CIM, which is more deeper. So we are planning to have some cybersecurity training program starting sometime in July. We'll let you know by our through mass mail, which will be two types. One for the journal in nature, for the people I have already mentioned. The second one is slightly more for the senior leadership and the CIO. And the question came up about the regulation. The regulatory authorities are coming up into the health sector, but it is a long drawn process. As you know, comments will be asked, things are formulated. It's already in their formulation stage, it has happened for many years, and now this will go to cabinet, and after its approval, like national health policy, which took long time to issue, it will also take issue long time. As far as the standard and NABH, one full chapter is there of the standard. Now this is an NABH of information, how this is a various aspects. But as you are aware, we have not got anything that everybody has to go electronic record. So we are having a dual purpose. One is somebody still maintains a manual record. He is told how the manual record must be maintained in NABH scenario. Second one, somebody have electronic record. He has been told how electronic records should be maintained. So there are standards. You can read those. There is a booklet which gives all the standards for the hospital. But as I have told you, we are in the transformation of technology in the health sector. A lot more have to be done. So you would find there is a manual system, and manual system also is a duplicated, triplicated, same information appearing in everything. Second one is limited electronic records have been done. So interoperability and other issues are also will come up. So I presume we are at the right direction, that anybody who wants to adopt the electronic record, he must already incorporate these, so at the later stage, he doesn't have to dump the system and restart again. In the JCI, they want, which also gives the standard for the various hospitals. You can go through it, and probably these things is noted that when we plan a training program, this will be incorporated. I would like to emphasize that we have created a platform of learning where we can learn from each other. And under this platform, we have brought many initiatives. We have finished 1 year and 10 months of the IC, and we will take it forward into more broader aspects. We have already got a magazine and I suppose those who are experts, please do write. It is already the 4th issue is just coming up, which will be available within a week. We will send you through the mass mail. If you have not included into the mass mail, please do let us know. We will include your ID into that. We are already having a conference on 17-18 September, which is the European Union, Government of India. They are all participating. and 400 delegates would be there. Should you like to attend as a delegate, register. If you are very strong and you want to have some representation, we'll consider it. We have created Young Innovators Award for the younger lot, those who have brought the innovation. So these are the various initiatives already have been put in place. They are matured, they have improved on your feedback. We have launched a club, IC Innovators Club. This is a recent one, and we will also have this in September, the first meeting. This is again, we have got very strong advisory group. Please look into that advisory group. And this is again creating a platform where we will share the information in half a day, followed by a cup of tea, exercise, annual fee for the club, nothing much, and everything is included. Is no extra payment will be required for any menu, a cup of tea, or etc. Now, in this we have investors, a legal expert, we have diagnostic stream, people running incubator, somebody who has a startup, and also if somebody want to have something to start, he will also have first information, and these experts can guide. I'm more interested that people should write failure stories, because ultimately overnight billionaire stories are there, which are there in economic times and everywhere, and people get tempted by that. But they are only handful out of all the initiatives which have been launched. Most of them failed, and some of them reach up to that stage. So failure stories can be shared, which would be that other people will be benefited, in addition to the success story. So the club is an opportunity which will give you such information. We also have already said that we have the webinar, and we will load all the information time to time. We do send a newsletter, kind of a mass mail, and we are streamlining everything. And I presume with your cooperation, with your support, and with your feedback, we should make the healthcare system more healthy, and also our aim is to make a healthcare delivery system which is reducing the cost, using all kinds of things. It could be technology, lean processes, etc. I thank everyone for spending an hour with us, and we will like to have more feedback, input from you to make it better. An idea is to make everyone in the country having advantage of such platform, and let us know, we'll do the needful. Thank you very much, Sachin, and thank you all of you for all this.